Hang on, okay. Okay, so I think we're live, but we're on a different page because it said there was problems, so I had to change some things. Okay, so I think we're live. Hello everybody on YouTube. I'm sorry that I had to switch YouTubes, but that's because there was an error code, and if you don't sort it out at the beginning, then you're just you're just gonna have problems. Yeah, cool. Okay, so nice to see you all. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, so the title of today's talk, which I just had to change slightly because I didn't have time to write it in, is how does love play a role in non-dual awakening? So obviously the title you're seeing now live is a little bit wrong. I will correct that when I finish streaming. Yeah, so how does love play a role in non-dual awakening? So yeah, I think this comes up regularly. Like there is two different things that seem to happen when there's awakening. There is the emptiness awakening, where it's this impersonality, this no place, this waking up and realizing, but it's not realizing as a thought or realizing as an idea, it's the energetic shift or seeing that this is nothing, this is empty. Or it's this knowing that this is empty now, that there is nothing here, there is nobody here. And it's this, you'd say this is the emptiness. It's the seeing that nothing has ever happened, that there is just what's happening, and that it's totally empty and void of anything, and yet there is everything. So that everythingness is the emptiness. So there can be that awakening. And then there's also this other awakening of love. And the love side is a sense of connection and intimacy with everything, a sense of no space from everything. That who you are and everything is one and the same thing. And the love is an intimacy. An intimacy with everything. And they're kind of together. They go together. Sometimes it's not seen, so the emptiness part is seen, but not the love part, because it's like when they're totally together, when it's like there's total merging with the nothing and the everything, it's like absolute death. There's like nothing happening, and there is no world, no place. It's a oneness experience. So it like in some ways you could say, so now if there's this like sense of emptiness or the sense of nothing, if you put the attention deep into that, the one that puts their attention into it begins to disappear, not in all cases, but it can begin to disappear. And then there is this love. It's like absolute love. Like nothing removed from that. And it really can't be an intellectual thing, love. It really can't be a personal thing. So when we're younger, we believe that love is a personal thing, that there is a me here that loves something. But actually, when you're in that, it's always about need. So love to somebody that loves something is about them being fulfilled in some level. So it's some need or want. Not that that's a wrong thing. It's just that it's not true love. It's a condition-based love that comes and goes and changes. And although it's got a seed of the true love in it, it's not. It's like a different experience or sensation. It's filled with other feelings of like getting what you want, of feeling satisfied, of maybe feeling superior or feeling competitive. There's other feelings in that. And true love is unconditioned. It's not something that can love something for a condition. It's really not based in time. It can only be a disappearance of self. So it's like as there's a dissolving into what you are, then there's just this natural, vibrant love that arises that is all things. When love is based on time, it comes and goes. When this is recognized, when there's this energetic shift, like love doesn't come and go. It maybe decreases and increases in intensity just because when you're more in the human world, there needs to be more focus on the person and the other, and so therefore that's more in the lens. But when you're sitting by yourself or meditating or reading or doing something very simple, then that love can completely take over because there doesn't need to be a character that's navigating the world. So even though it's always there, it seems to grow, or for me, it seems to grow with intensity dependent on action, dependent on what's happening. But it's always there, it's always accessible, it's always underneath everything. And it comes with the emptiness, the non-attachment to anything, the absolute embracing of everything. And this sounds so wooey-tooey, like I'm some new age hipster, which I am. But it's also like really, really practical because it's actually the experience when you step outside of thinking. But that's so impossible because everything for the mind that's listening, because everything it knows is in subject-object, in a mental reality. So it's what were you before your mental reality? What are you when your mental reality is disappearing? What's fascinating about that is there's no logical thinking in the disappearance of thinking, so therefore you can't remember it. It's a no place, a no thing. Like, we remember events, we remember things, we remember thoughts about events. We can't remember a nothing. So that's like really fascinating as well. So it's then always like, who has the awakening, or who knows this? Like, I seemingly know this because there was a before and an after. There was a before when I was in a conditioned reality, and then there's seemingly an after. But that is a memory, so I'm even willing to drop that and say, I don't know. It's really this not knowingness. Like, what is it that we can possibly know here? What is it that's free without knowing something? What is the birthright? The birthright wasn't to think. Not everybody has the ability to think in a complex manner. And some people will never be able to think. Some people lose their memory, have brain image. Your birthright wasn't to think. So what was the birthright? And you could say it in many ways, that the birthright is to know this beyond anything else. To know this. And it's not even something that knows this. You could say to be this. Like, one thing that never changes in experience is there's always this, no matter what. This alive, awake presence. So that's one thing that there always is this. Like, have you ever experienced a time when there wasn't this? This moment. What's happening? So there's many times when you've experienced this without the person, without thoughts, but you've never been able to experience this without this. And what I mean by this is what's happening. And what's happening is really mysterious, but we can say it's got qualities to it. Like, there is a perception of this happening, but not a perception that's separate from this. There is this happening that's perceiving itself. And that perception doesn't come from inside the body. Like, in your experience now, it doesn't come from inside of the body. That's an added thought. It comes from inside the body. In the moment of it, it's experiencing, and there is everything, including bits of the body. Like, I can see my knees. I can see my hands. I can see a bit of fringe, a bit of hair. But even that's interpretation. Like in the intimacy prior to thinking, there is this with no second. There is this instant and nothing more. It's totally without any thought, without any conceptualization. What happens with excessive conceptualization of this and me and you is there's actually a feeling in the body that feels limited of a me that's experiencing the world, and that me is always self-referencing itself. So it gives like an energetic expression of there being somebody there, and in the awakening often that shifts, and then there's like lots of kundalini stuff that happens. But that isn't true. There isn't an energetic you inside the body. There is everything. Seemingly looking through this body, you could say intellectually after the event, but in the moment, it's not looking from anywhere. There is simply everything happening with no second. There's nobody that knows it. There's nothing that can think about it. Thinking appears and disappears in it. The you that knows it and doesn't know disappears in it. Appears and disappears in it. But this knowing is all places and no places. This big knowing, this knowing without thought, this knowing that's not knowing. It's simply here awake and doesn't know that it's awake. Doesn't know that there is a sleep. Doesn't know that there is a human body or any of that. It's just awake. And that's such love. That's the basis of experiencing. That's the basis of being. And it's totally empty. Like right now, the experiencer is empty. The idea that there is a you there experiencing is simply an idea, which has created lots of unnecessary thinking, which tends to go into suffering because the mind tends to think of problems and how to fix problems, and you become a problem. And then there's all types of psychology that begins to play out. But there's not actually a you there experiencing. This is such deep teaching and can be very dangerous in the wrong hands and with the wrong interpretation. So please read the disclaimer on my website, and please be careful listening to these videos because it's such a deep teaching. I'm basically saying to you that there is nobody that's experiencing now. And if you've been an experiencer for 50 years of your life, you know, this could really be, you know, an existential crisis. And if you're sort of 20 years old and you haven't really got much life experience, you know, this could kind of like get you into some bizarre thinking. But it's actually it's absolute freedom when it's recognized by nobody. But often what happens is the person creates all types of interpretations of it and problems out of it. So who is it that's looking now? Who's looking? Who's hearing? Who's thinking? Who's feeling? There is this knee-jerk reaction that's like, me, I am doing all these things. But who is that me? Who is that me that's claiming to be something? And it's that love, it's that no place that's the orchestrator of everything. Orchestrates everything. But not as a personified person, like that's the nature of the mind, is to think, okay, there is something inside of us, this entity inside of us called the big consciousness or the big not knowing, and that's like moving us. And it's happening through this spontaneity, like everything is arising from that no place. It's not even arising because it's not like a wave on an ocean that's like whoop. It's happening instantaneously. And to me, that's like creativity. That's something that's fascinated me my whole life, is the movement from that place. In a way, life is always moving from that place, even when you're doing it through an identified ego that's in lots of suffering. But to me, what's been the fascination is like stripping it back more and more and more until you're kind of resting in that place in which creativity arises from through that character. It's this kind of, you feel this love of everything that's appearing, and there's like an emptiness to everything, like it's an impersonality to everything. So the speaking happens, but it's not Lisa speaking. The creativity happens if you're an artist, but it's not the person doing it. It's coming from this place of love. It's coming from this place of emptiness through the Lisa character. And it creates the Lisa character with particular emotions and feelings in order to move her in particular ways. But it's like getting to that sweet spot of it coming, like, so your sense of being you is coming, is like right on the edge of that void, of that emptiness. So it's like it's coming into creation from that void. So the feeling is that everything arises from love, even if the character is in anger. Even for me, sometimes when I have odd seeking patterns coming, it still feels like it's coming from that love. So where is that place in you? Like, so you sitting there listening, where is that place of emptiness, of love? And it's in the heart of being. It's your essence. It's what's there all the time. And what happens when you're in the person and in the identified with the person is that there's so much focus on the identification and what you have and don't have, what your feelings are, what you need, what you want. There's so much focus on that it's covered. So it's like a coming back to something that's inherent in everything. So you could say like going into the heart of being. And some people call it like a going back, but it's really not back or forward because it's everywhere in all things. And it's really radical. It's finding that place in everything that's happening. You know, in the sadness of the character, in the despair of the character, in the goodness of the character. These things do seem to settle down, the highs and lows of the character as it's really realized. But it's also equally, you know, if something really shitty happens. It's like sitting in that place of love even when something shitty happens and when you have to lay in bed and curl up and cry. What most people are doing a lot in their life is they're looking to find salvation in a future event or in avoiding a past event. So they're looking for salvation and freedom in whatever, earning enough money, having kids, lessening pain, food, alcohol, sex, attention, fame. So it's like a constant foggy dream of an illusory you that has to get to these things in order to be free. And the fog is like so interesting that it's constantly morphing. So even if you've done that game of trying to find it in one thing, like your partner or something, 1,000 times before, it morphs, and so it kind of feels like you've never done it before, and it's the most important thing there is in the universe. And that game keeps the attention tightly fixed on the person and the dream of the person. It's like, if you imagine like playing a game, like a computer game, and it's like really intense. It's like the intensity of that seeking game keeps the screen very filled with the story of you and what you've accomplished, what you're going to accomplish, who people see you as, how people see you, if you're loved or not loved. This whole dynamic plays out. And it's not true. What you actually seek, the salvation, is your own heart of being. It's like the most frustratingly beautiful game that was ever created. Like the game is, you believe the game is out there in the world of this character you getting something, but the game is in the heart of the game. It's in yourself. So the answer, so winning the game is coming back to yourself. So it's maybe like if you imagine a virtual reality game, you put your headset on and you're playing a character, and the character keeps thinking it has to do all these things to get what it wants, and it's like running around this world trying to get things. But the gemstone that you're looking for is your heart. So it's like as soon as there's a giving up and a going back to, okay, I've done everything in this virtual reality, and then there's a giving up and going back to what you've always been. And that's the completion of the game. Whoever makes that game, like, it could be a game about looking for the lost stone, the lost gem, the lost light. Maybe it could be like a world of darkness and you're looking for the lost light. And then the light is in the heart. Yeah, that's a bit like, who's going to want to play that? Like, yeah. You're searching for the light, and then you're like, ooh, there is a light coming out of my heart. I can imagine that actually being a little bit tripe. But That's the game of this life. Everything you ever look for and seeking is yourself. It's just not out there. Yes, there is pleasure and pain, and yes, this body is always going to move towards pleasure and away from pain. It's the way it's directed. But it's this giving up of this identity that believes in that. Rather than it just being a happening, it's an identity that believes in that and is playing the game and constantly registering the story of you and going through all these ups and downs in storyland and hokey pokies. He doesn't love me, she loves me too much. I want this person, I don't want that person, and that person wants that person, and that person wants that person, and there's all these dramas going on, and it's just not true. It's not in that. Okay, we can take questions. So if you want to ask me a question, you can put your hand up in the Telegram live streaming. So there's, if you're in the Telegram group, Lisa's channel, you can go in there and you can put your hand up if you want to ask something. Equally, you can write a question in the Telegram group. Lisa Cairns questions. There's already some in there, so you're welcome, if you're in the group, to send it prior to the talk and then I will answer it. So the first question I'm going to answer is from PH. HP printers. So it's from PH. You just check. I can see that. I'm a little low on the screen. Sorry. There you go. A little less low on the screen. Okay. So, PH says, when doing self-inquiry, it feels as if every answer is just another thought. How do you quiet the mind so that inquiry can hit its intended target and not elicit another intellectual answer? Thank you, PH, for your question. Yeah, I don't know so much about the practice of self-inquiry. I didn't really practice it myself, only in regards to listening to other people talk about it, but I didn't go back and keep asking who I am. But I can imagine like part of it might be to exhaust it. So it's like, as you keep answering the question, you come up with answers. It's like exhausting something. You're seeing that's not true. So I am my success. I am the failure that just did something wrong. Like I am all these things. So it's the seeing those thoughts and that they're not true. I suspect as you progress in self-inquiry, what begins to happen is no answer comes up and there is a dissolving back into yourself. But this is what I find with a lot of seekers, is that they try to rush it. But even that is like a bizarre idea, because there is this idea that there is a you that is in some limbo land waiting to become free. So waiting to enact self-inquiry properly in the future in order to be free. And you see how that evokes images in your mind. And for the person that's feeling that, it also, or thinking that, also evokes feelings. So there's this like combinations of that feeling true to you, that being your reality, with these feelings, which feels very real. But it's actually the same phenomena happening as when you're reading a book and you're relating to a character in the book, except that one's more far removed. So you're invested, but not that invested. So it's like you're enjoying the character, and maybe you cry with the character. But there's also this deep knowing that it's a play happening, a play of imagination. But when it comes to you, to PH, there is a sense that it's real, and not seeing that it is this misty dream that's appearing and disappearing. And currently the dream is that there is a you that practices self-inquiry, and you want to know when you can settle down the mind, or how to settle down the mind, so you can have that non-dual awakening or experience, which is a very logical question. And like in another answer, maybe I could answer some techniques in order to settle the mind. But what I feel like doing at this moment is really questioning, who is the you that's asking the question? Like, who is this fog? And then the mind looks for a place, like, who is it? Who is it? And it's looking for stillness. But it's actually just surrendering to the diversity of that experience without attaching to any element of it. Yeah, thank you for your question, PH. Okay. So this is from T. So I'm just trying to say people's first letter of their name, although I might make a mistake. T. Lisa, I feel at times as if my individual mind is receding in the background, and as if there is a universal mind seeing, looking, knowing through my eyes. It feels different to the eye witnessing. It feels further receded beyond the eye, I think. Perhaps as if the mind is becoming loose inside itself. Do you know what what might be happening? Thank you. TT. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. I don't know what the eye witnessing is like for you. Like when I think of the eye witnessing, it's personal awareness watching itself. So the personal awareness is putting personal awareness in itself. And there is something deeper that is watching and experiencing the personal awareness. Because the personal awareness can be seen, the eye witnessing can be seen, if we're talking about the same thing. I don't always know what people mean by all these different terminologies. Yeah, so there can be like this, like you say, receding back or falling back into this infinite space that is experiencing everything, but isn't conceptual and isn't dualistic. And it's also something you can't really know, but yet there is some form of knowing of the difference between a person experiencing and a no person experiencing because of the memory. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And it's something that can only happen by itself, even though it maybe feels like you're involved in some way. It's completely impersonal. Yes, I think that's the end of the questions already. Yeah, if anyone wants to put their hand up, they're very welcome to ask a question. Yeah, sorry, Daft Punk, I'm not going to answer because I don't recognise the name. Maybe one of the organisers who let you into the group can verify your name. So this is another question. Hi Lisa, the person can't move the camera so as to eliminate the person. So the understanding self can't get out of self indicates a notion to give up. Give up as all is futile in any actual removal, right? But that giving up is not possible. It seems only by natural, mysterious phenomena anything and everything happens. Yeah, it seems that way, It seems that way. But in the end, it's your own heart of being. So it's also the giving up or the not giving up is actually coming from yourself. but just not the personified self. So even though you call it natural mysterious phenomena, and we can call it that, but it's your own natural mysterious phenomena, but just not as a person, as this beingness, this emptiness. So in a way, even though it's like a completely impersonal, arbitrary happening, it's actually our own happening. Because it's you as the ultimate that is the director of everything. But we always personify that, it's not personal. So yeah, there does seem to be a giving up in the character world, like a surrendering back into this moment, like realizing that all the games that were being played aren't actually going to fulfill you to what you truly want, like truly, truly want. So then there is like a collapsing back in. Because this moment's then all you're left with if you're not daydreaming about a future or fearing a past, like trying to avert a scary past. Then you're only left with this moment, this innocence, yourself as the emptiness and the love. Yeah, thank you. Nice. Well, maybe that is all for today. There's no more questions, and I don't feel like reading a book, like I did last time with Papaji's questions. So, yeah, I think I stop for now. Yes, I won't be here next Sunday. I'll most probably go back to roughly doing it most Sundays, but I won't be here next Sunday as we are entertaining friends. Yeah, nice. I really, really wish you everything. Everything. Not just one or two or three things, but every goddamn thing. Thanks. Bye.